The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, and thank you for joining our webinar this morning. My name is Chris Peters, and today we're going to be talking about Supplier Portal with our friends over at Decos. They are partners with us on this, so we're going to walk you through the Supplier Portal. A few things, if you haven't attended one of our webinars, there's an option where you can ask your questions in the menu bar where your mute and whatnot is all up there. So if you have any questions, you can just go ahead and ask your question. And if it's something that's for us to go ahead and stop the webinar right at that point, I'll go ahead and I will interrupt our presenter to make sure that he answers that question right then and there. But for the most part, we're probably going to save most of these questions to be at the end of the webinar. But at any point, feel free to go ahead and type in that question, and we'll go ahead and do our best to get it answered at the appropriate time. Like I said, my name is Chris Peters. I'm the Director of Sales for Astra. Today, we are going to go over the supplier portal that we have to offer to you, and then we'll have a Q&A session as well. But like I said just a few seconds ago, you can go ahead and ask those questions whenever, so you don't have to worry about forgetting them. A little bit about Astra. We've been a product and services partner since 2008. We have a very large consulting staff that focuses on the same verticals as IFS. We can do anything from a basic report all the way up to a full-on implementation. We have a few other products as well. We have Fast AP, which many of you have probably heard of, which is our AP automated to automate your invoice processing. We also have Fast Docs, which uses an OCR solution to go ahead and take any data off of some documents that you have and get that inside IFS, like with customer orders, for example. And then we also offer a product called Auto Archive. Auto Archive is a product where we attach documents inside IFS, inside DocMan. So it works out really well for quickly getting rid of those documents that you've been storing in filing cabinets. Instead, we digitize them and get them inside IFS so that they're easy to find. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pass the presenting role off to Nitin, and he is going to tell you a little bit more about the supplier portal. Presenter. There we go. Sorry, Nitin, I had a moment where I couldn't make you the presenter. You should be the presenter now.
Hey, good morning all. My name is Ritesh, and along with me, I have Nitin Akhuri. Welcome to this webinar. Today, what we're going to show you is a solution which will on the supplier portal. So just a quick introduction about us. My name is Ritesh. I'm a business consultant with Decos. Worked with the solution development team and also was part of the implementation team for this IFS joint solution, which we are going to present today in India and Southeast Asia. Along with me, we have Mr. Nitin Akhuri, who is the managing director of Decos, but is an IFS ERP expert with 20 plus years of implementation experience with large and mid-sized enterprises. In his previous roles, he has led the entire IFS India and Southeast Asia business development activities and have completed various IFS implementations. He has been instrumental in this building and developing of this solution, wherein he is aware of various gaps that the IFS ERP customer face and how these gaps, once filled, can give you an informed data that will help you to take informed decisions. Today, what we are going to show you is a supplier portal using IFS joint solution. Now, what exactly is this IFS joint solution? IFS, as you're all aware of, is an enterprise resource planning solution, very well established. A lot of customers using it. Some of you must have already have good experiences with. What you see in the middle is a solution called as Join, which is a business process management tool which can help you configure various B2B processes, various business to consumer processes, various business to employee processes. So basically, it's a seamlessly integrated solution for defining your tailored and last mile processes. This solution is 100% configurable, requires very minimum or no customization when it comes to this integration. We have spent time in building IFS join adapter, which makes the two solutions seamlessly communicate with each other. Now, before we jump to this supplier portal, just like to put on some of the scenarios which you might have already faced while working with IFS ERP. Do you interact regularly with suppliers? Do you need to follow up multiple times with your suppliers? You might get a lot of questions related to their purchase orders and payments. You might feel a need of a comprehensive digital supplier portal, which will help you interface with IFS and then pass on the data to your suppliers so that they can actively participate. Then you might need to manage a lot of conflicts and grievances that might come from the supplier. And we assume that you already, if at all you're using any existing supplier portal, you already know a lot of limitations of those supplier portal. Now, using this solution, we'll try to address, we'll show that how we have configured this and how far we are able to achieve a lot of problems and a lot of good solution that makes an ERP user's life easy. Now, this basically, when we say IFS join solution, and in that particularly the supplier portal, it's basically an end-to-end solution for all the supplier related transactions and all the supplier related data that you need to at times key in manually or save it somewhere else before you enter it in ERP. Right? When we say end-to-end solution, it first starts with the supplier registration, right? I'll quickly take you to the solution and show you that how exactly the interface is developed and how easy it is to use. Now, what you see on your screen is an Internet Explorer screen where you see Join application. It's a web-based solution, can be hosted in cloud as well. You can save it in your central servers so that the data is centralized. It can be integrated with your Active Directory so that your usernames remains the same. It also supports single sign-on so that users don't need to key in the username again. As soon as they open the portal, they are automatically logged in. Now I'll quickly log into this solution. And the moment I log in, I land on the dashboard. Now, just like IFS, these dashboards are user specific, can be configured as per user requirement. Since I am as of now logged in as one of the ERP user, right? So in your a user who belongs to your organization. So when he logs in, he gets to see first the list of all the suppliers that they have. If he scrolls down, you also get to see some graphs, pie charts also. The solution actually gives you an overview of the, let's say if you're having grievance management solution with the supplier, it gives you the status of various grievances. It gives you the provision of doing data entry and also comes along with a very powerful and effective workflow management system. So if a workflow has assigned you any particular task, you get to see what all tasks have been assigned to the particular user. Now, as a part of supplier portal, let's just quickly start with supplier registration. So I'll just click on this OK. It opens up this new form. Now there are multiple ways of doing it, right? First, I'll just show you the normal way or the manual way, wherein the supplier sends in his information, and the user manually keys in all that information, right? I'll just quickly key in some information, assuming that I have received the information from the supplier in the form of documents in a mail, and I'm just trying to key in all that information in the system. Along with the supplier, we need to add an address. So I'll just quickly key in an address for the supplier. So I'll just say Decos Inc. is the name of the supplier. I have some address saved in, so I save some time. And I save. So you see, the address of the supplier is registered and a new entry is made in the system. What we are going to follow is this workflow. So as you see, I have created a supplier registration wherein the supplier has sent in the information and it has been made. So I create new supplier, which is as of now is in preliminary stage. Then I have also added one address, then the status become in progress. The next steps that I'll be following is I'll be attaching few verification documents. It might be some documents related to taxation, some documents related to the company registration, and then the workflow can follow multiple levels of approvals. As I stated in this, as I mentioned the start of this webinar, that this solution join is an 100% configurable solution. So one can configure their own workflow without any customization, right? So we'll just quickly follow this workflow. To follow the workflow, I'll go to another view in the solution. I'll click on the items tab here, and it takes me on the left-hand side. If you see, it shows me various different processes that are already configured. On the top, I get to see the list view. So as of now, supplier is selected. So on the top, I get to see the list view that these are all the suppliers I have with me. And here I have the form view, basically the form which is already we filled in the form, right? You can see one address is already linked, right? If you want, suppliers can have more than one addresses. They can also have their warehouse address. They can have their billing address. So you can enter all these addresses. So you can see as of now, the status is into preliminary. And a small tile appears on the right-hand side and it says add at least one address. Now, since we have already added one address, I'll just click on this activity. Now, this is nothing but a workflow has been started, right? And the solution is asking you to follow the workflow, right? As a part of workflow, it gives you a checklist. Now, if you see, it has automatically selected as yes. Why? Because we have already added one address here. Since the address is added, I can move on to the next part, right? So what I'll do is I'll just finish this activity saying that, okay, is a part of workflow. I have completed this activity. It moves to the next part wherein it says that please add few documents. So I'll go here and click on documents. And I'll quickly try to add certain documents, right? So I'll just put some bank details, some registration certificates, and few more such documents. Now, as soon as I do that, all these documents get linked. So basically, you can scan it in the solution. Once the scan documents, you can link those documents in the with the particular supplier so that documents are saved. Now, I have linked all the documents. I'll just click again, saying that, okay, I've completed this workflow activity. I want to move on. So if you see, now this is automatically checked in. So there are multiple types of checks that you can put in. You can also have automatic checks. You can have manual checks. All documents are true copies. So this is a manual check. So I'm assuming that yes, I have scanned the documents and I have assuming that I have attached the true copies that I have received. And I can say that, okay, I have completed this. So I've moved to the next part. Now, as you can see, it goes for approval to Mr. Nitin Akhuri, right? Because that's how the workflow has been defined. Now, what happens if I try to click this, I'll not be able to handle this because it is assigned to a particular user. Now, this user when he logs in, he gets to see this activity and he has to do the approval. So what I'll do is I'll quickly log out and log in with Mr. Nitin Akhuri. Oh, if you see, the system has automatically helped me perform a single sign-on. So I'll just log out again and I'll actually log in with Nitin's username and password. And to handle all these activities, if you see on the dashboard, he gets to see that, okay, an activity has been assigned and I have 7 days to approve this. When Nitin clicks on, it takes it to the dynamic workbench of Join, wherein you can actually perform all the task management in the system. So if you see, we have completed the preliminary status. We have completed the in progress, documents have been uploaded, and it is now put for approval. Now Nitin can put in his comments or notes like supplier approved, ready to be considered for the RFQs. And all he has to give his consent that yes, I give approval to this particular supplier. And the Nitin has to click on handle. So this way, he is handling the workflow activity and we complete this flow. For demo purpose, we have just kept one level of approval. And you can see once this is done, this is where the IFS join adapter comes into the picture. As soon as the supplier is approved, just to verify, we can quickly go to the items tab again. This is the supplier which we were approving. And you can see these are the workflow activities which we have performed. And it says that the notification has been okayed and the supplier has been saved with this particular ID. We can just quickly copy this ID and move to IFS and quickly see if we can find the supplier which we created or which has been passed through the approval process in Join. So you can see the supplier has been automatically created in IFS. So this way you can configure your own process, own approval mechanism for a supplier and can be seamlessly integrated with IFS. So this is what we have just seen, the supplier registration process. So this is one way of doing it. Now there is another smart way of doing it, wherein we give control to the supplier to enroll or complete the registration process. Join also comes in with electronic forms. These are smart forms which you can define, configure as per your requirement and within no time. It requires no customization. I start again, I can just fill in the data again. I'll just say Decos LLP. I select. So this form, all this data, you can just create your own forms, create the way you want. I'll just select a few things here. Okay, just put some sample data. I can upload files. So from here, you can just upload the file and give some name. I'm just putting some test file for now. The files or documents which you expect. So you can expect a registration certificate from the supplier. You can expect a document where he has to provide his taxation number for all the billing. He has to, looks like the file is still uploading. He has to give his email address so that the system can automatically generate the acknowledgement and all the future communication, because once the supplier is created, you'll have to email the login credentials of this portal to the supplier. So this email address can be recorded. So I click continue. It gives you an overview. So I can just quickly agree that yes, I agree that all the information that I have provided is correct. And all I have to do is click send now. As I said that you can just provide this link on your website or anywhere you can publish this link as supplier registration. Anybody who is willing to register as a supplier can click on that link and fill in the form. He gets this number, an acknowledgement number, that this is what is your registration or kind of a tracking number. When the supplier, once the supplier finishes the login formalities, right, a user in the background who is going to perform all the verification and the approval process can find all the information that is submitted by the supplier in the system. So if you see, this is all the information that I have filled in an electronic form and has been automatically came into the system, and the workflow has started in the background. From here, the workflow which we have seen remains the same. So this is the other way of doing it. So you have manual way of doing it. Along with that, you also get to see, you also get the power of electronic forms. Again, 100% configurable forms with 100% configurable workflows. So now what we have seen is the supplier registration using normal way, or wherein the person keys in the data, or using electronic forms. Now assume that the supplier has been successfully created. He receives an email notification with his login credentials, and he tries to log into the portal. So I'll just, we have one supplier already created with some sample data for this webinar. So I'll quickly log in with that particular supplier. Now, when this supplier logs in, he gets to see a different dashboard, right? Now you can see he gets to see his personal information that, okay, I have registered with this name, this is my address, and my current status is showing as approved. If I want, now as a supplier, if I want, because I logged in as a supplier, so if I want, as a supplier, I can open the form and I can try to change. So, okay, I feel that, okay, some information has been incorrectly mentioned. So I get to correct it. So I can just try to change the zip code. I save it. So, okay, so the status is already approved, but this can allow you to make any corrections from the supplier, and this form is configurable. You can have any number of fields or any type of information that you expect from the supplier to come in. So that is how the supplier gets to see his own information. Now the next part that comes into the picture is the supplier has been registered. He gets to see some authorized information, right? Because this portal will be accessed by a lot of different suppliers. When I say authorized information, the supplier will be able to see, or the supplier who logged in, he'll be able to see his purchase orders, he'll be able to see his purchase order lines, and the system ensures that only the purchase order and purchase order lines which belongs to this particular supplier are shown to the particular supplier only. So information is secured, and only an authorized supplier gets to see the information which he or she is intended to see. So that is how you can view authorized information. Once the supplier starts in, as the purchase orders are generated, the suppliers can also participate into the various RFQ and RFP processes that are followed in the organizations. So we have also created a similar system which allows you to perform all the formalities. Once the RFQ is created, the preparation of technical proposal, evaluation of technical proposal, publishing of documents, and submission of online submission of the bids by the supplier. So a similar process for processing of these RFQs in digital fashion, wherein all other process otherwise are manual, have been automated using this join IFS solution. But since we are focusing on supplier portal, we will continue with our discussion on that. I have another use case for this IFS join solution, which is related to purchase order lines. Now, as being an IFS users, you must be aware that coordinator groups in the organization have to spend a lot of time following up with the suppliers, particularly related to the delivery of the items which are part of the purchase order, because your project timelines are highly dependent on the supplies received from the supplier, right? Now, what happens is a planned delivery date is really crucial for project management. If you see that I have received an email notification also. So the system actually generates automatic email notifications of all the tasks that are assigned to me. So you can configure these such email notifications if required. So I was discussing about the purchase order lines. So the planned delivery date, usually a person from an organization will call up the supplier and he will seek information that whether you have, when are you going to ship, and whether you have shipped, and what would be the planned delivery date. And then the ERP user goes ahead and keys in manually the planned delivery date. Now this actually takes a lot of time, no tracking of information. You have to track a lot of emails, you have to make a lot of phone calls. What we have created is a solution wherein a supplier gets to see his own purchase order lines. When he opens his purchase order lines, all the information that is related to IFS is in the form of read-only mode. So a supplier will not be really able to make any change. Only thing that he'll be able to change is the planned delivery date and some extra information which otherwise IFS don't allow or have no provision to capture. So a supplier can give you an airway bill number. He can update the status. He can put on, some extra information along with this. So here in this, what the supplier is doing is he's saying that instead of 1st of April, because of some reason, the planned delivery date will now be 8th of April. And all the supplier has to do is save this information. Now what happens is this IFS join adapter in the background updates this information in IFS. So let's go ahead and see if the information has actually been updated in IFS. I'll quickly search for the purchase order line. This saves a lot of time for the user, ERP users, so they don't need to follow up with the suppliers, and the project timelines are dynamically updated automatically. So the project managers gets all the information as soon as the information is updated by the supplier. So if you see, the planned delivery date has now been updated to 8th of April. So this is how the supplier can update the planned delivery dates.
I just wanted to add a couple of things, Ritesh.
Sure, Nitin, please go ahead.
If you can just show the PPT again.
This form?
The PPT presentation.
Sure.
See, what we have created is some examples. In these examples, we talked about supplier registration and supplier self-registration, supplier updating his own information. Then the third point, we talked about the supplier being able to see some information. We have showed him, for example, purchase orders, purchase order lines, some invoice information. We can also show other information if you want to show some financial information to him, like the amount of credit that is there, or any other information that can also be easily configured. Similarly, we showed an example of an extended supply chain whereby the supplier updates his delivery information, the promised delivery date, or some other information, for example, the airway bill number, etc. These are just examples, and these are going to be very organization specific. So we can have other processes also. For example, once the purchase order has been created, we can have some interactions, document interactions with supplier, exchange of documents like the design documentations, etc., and that can also pass through a workflow, right? So what we have tried to project here is, through some use cases, we've tried to project a 360-degree way of interacting with the suppliers and interacting in a very user-friendly manner. Yeah, Ritesh, please go ahead. Sorry for interruption.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm going to step in real quick. A question just came up that seems appropriate to answer now. Is the other information that the supplier can provide, like airway bill, does that get passed on to IFS?
Sorry, hello, can we get the question again? Yeah, it was very light. Can you be a little louder, please?
Yes, can you hear me a little better now?
Yes.
The question was, does the other information, like the airway bill, get passed to IFS, like you just showed?
We can pass it in case these fields are not directly there in IFS, but we can create these fields in IFS, and we can pass on the information to existing IFS fields and also to the custom fields in IFS.
Perfect. Thank you guys very much. Continue.
All right, thanks. Thanks, Nitin. Okay, so now there are some grievances that usually come up with the suppliers, right? Supplier wants to query with your procurement manager related to the payments, related to the past order or the new orders, and there can be a lot of conflicts with the deliveries of the product. So now the supplier don't really need to send emails or phone calls and something like that. He can actually log a grievance right from this supplier portal. So if you see here, I'll just click on this OK. I just get this form. So basically the supplier gets to see this form. He can just select the type of grievance. So I'll just say it's related to the payment. I'll just put some description. Delay in the payment for, let's say, purchase order. I'll just put some random number. Right, and if there is some reference number, or for that matter, the number which a procurement manager can relate to, and he just clicks on save. Now what happens is, as soon as this is created, as soon as the grievance is created, a workflow starts in the background. So if you see now, I've moved to a same items tab. I'm logged in as a supplier, and supplier gets to see a very limited view, right? So all this information is limited to the supplier only, right? All other things which were present in for the previous users does not really show up here, right? So that is how you can control. The system actually allows you to control the accessibility of the data at the field level. So you can configure the system to restrict access on the field level. So if you see here, my grievance has been registered, and it is, as of now, the status says registered, and as a small tile appears here again, which says acknowledge the issue. If I try to open it, since it is assigned to a different user, I'm not able to handle it, right? So this is how the workflow moves forward. And again, this has a configurable workflow. You can set your own configurable configuration for the workflow. You can have your own business logic for the workflow. The workflows are strong enough to completely automate all your business logics, wherein you can send automatic notifications, you can send automatic emails. To an extent, you can also set an escalation matrix. So if a grievance is of a particular type and has not been resolved in so and so date, it gets automatically escalated to the next level. So just to perform this quick grievance management, we'll just log out and try to log in with another user who will just try to work on this grievance. So we'll just try to acknowledge the grievance to the user. We can configure it in a way wherein once the grievance has been acknowledged, an automatic email is sent to the user. I'm sorry, I logged in with a correct user, extremely sorry. Okay, I hope this is the right user. Okay, go to grievance. Now if you see I've logged in with a different user, there are a lot of other processes which are configured, which are similar to this supplier portal. So if you see this is the same grievance which has been logged by the supplier. And you can see here, this user actually gets to see grievances from a lot of other different suppliers as well. It's not just S503 which we were using, but there are a lot of other suppliers from whom the grievance has been registered. So I open this and I'll say, okay, fine, I'm acknowledging this. Now, as soon as I acknowledge, it moves to the next level and the status is changed automatically. If you have noticed, the status is in read-only mode. So as a user or as a supplier, nobody cannot really change the status manually. It is governed by the workflow that has been placed in the background, right? So the workflow engine governs the flow of your business logic as defined, right? So if I click on this, it's the next activity. So it says initiate the work. So now this user will go on and perform. So I'll say, okay, fine, the payment has been, let's see, completes all the background work that needs to be resolved, and can actually send email right from here. So you can see you have an email button. You can configure the email servers. So you know now no need to go to your email, Outlook or any other mail client to go ahead and contact the supplier. The supplier emails are already registered with us in this portal. You click on the email and it picks up the email address of the supplier automatically, and also list down the grievances to which you are acknowledging. You can just type in. You can also create your own templates, so you can now communicate right from the solution. Your emails get saved in the system, your documents are saved in the system, so now you don't there is 100% tracking of the information, and you get to see the information at one place. So if I just assuming that, okay, I'm updating the progress and I say output as resolved. So you see the status has been changed, and now we acknowledge and just pass on the information to the supplier that, okay, your grievances which was shared by you has been resolved. So this basically goes to the supplier. I'm just resolving on behalf of the supplier. If the supplier is not satisfied with the resolution, he can simply say not resolved, and the workflow will again kickstart, right? So the supplier is kind of a feedback mechanism. If you want to put in the solution, you can have that type of mechanism configured in the workflow. So this is how, and once it says that, okay, it has been resolved, so the status is made to closed. So if we go back to our presentation, so if you see now with this supplier portal, the complete end-to-end solution, right from the supplier registration to the various type of transactions that can be performed with the supplier in your IFS ERP, which otherwise are manual or are not in any form of an automated solution, can now, with the help of this joint solution, can be made part of this process automation. And as you have seen, the notifications and reminders can be set. So if a task has been assigned, right, you can configure it in a way that before it is escalated, you inform a particular user 1 day in advance that you just have 1 day in hand, or you just have 1 more day to resolve or work on this particular task before you move forward. Right. So that is how this supplier portal solution has been configured. It has been, as you must have already seen, the integration is so seamless that the information flows in, dynamically flows in as soon as the system generates or triggers that particular point where the information needs to be pushed into IFS. Not just that, all these purchase order lines and all the purchase orders that are created, once they are reached, or once they are in a particular status in IFS, they basically automatically get synced with join and start appearing in the portal. So if I just wanted to show you again, if I go back to dashboard, all these purchase order lines, I'll log in again with the supplier. All the purchase orders and all these purchase order lines, as soon as if a new purchase order is generated in IFS, it will start appearing here automatically for the particular supplier, right? So that is how the solution is configured. Now, along with this, Join also comes with a mobility platform called as mJoin, right? Now, using this mobility platform, all these tasks, various types of approvals, right? It could be approval for a customer order, it could be approval for leaves, it could be approvals for your RFQs. All these approvals can now be available for an enterprise user on this joint mobility platform. And as I mentioned, it is again a configurable solution. There is no separate setup that is required for this, or no customization that is required. Once your supplier portal is in place, all the activities or the tasks that are assigned in the IFS ERP can now be extended on this mJoin mobility platform, which will help you to control various activities. So it could be a lot of activities related to employee self-service, wherein an employee can apply for leave. Once applied, leaves can be approved on this mobile platform. As I said, for the customer order, so you don't need to, your sales representative, you can actually place the customer order. There is another app which is in progress. So if your sales executives are with the customer, they can actually place the customer order then and there in front of the customer. They don't need to wait for the sales representative to come back to office, log into IFS ERP, and then enter the order. Sorry. So that's how the M-Join mobility platform provides you a lot of flexibility, a lot of features which are IFS features can now be extended to this mobility platform. So now we can open the forum for question and answers, Chris.
Yeah, so if you have any questions, please make sure you enter them in the question box and we can go ahead and get those answered for you. A question that has come up is, can you configure the post-purchase order related process?
Yeah, okay. I think Nitin, will you answer?
Yes, we can configure post-purchase order processes for some of our customers, specifically, Macabre BK. We have configured post-purchase order processes. Depends what process you want to configure, but their specific requirement was that once the purchase order has been placed, they wanted to send out design documentations, get its approval from their supplier, pass it on to their internal department, then pass it on also to the customer. So that's the process they got configured. There are other configured processes with respect to the milestones that you are completing at the supplier side. So these are 2-3 processes that we have configured. But since it's a configurable system, so we can decide what our interactions with the supplier are, and we can configure them in the system.
Okay, we have another question that came in. Can the supplier portal be used for secure exchange of documents related to the PO, specs, or statement of work?
Yes, it can be. It can be. In fact, we are currently implementing for our customer called as Arya Soul in Iran. Now they want the supplier portal to work as a finalization for the statement of work. So to the extent that once the statement of work is finalized with them, then only they would like the purchase order to be released in IFS. So it can be used for finalization of statement of work or any other contract documentations that you're having with the supplier.
Yeah, and just to add to what Nitin has said, and when you say the control of documents, during the webinar, I mentioned that we have a solution configured for one of our customer, Wabag, for the RFQ processing, right? The bids are submitted online. The supplier submits their bid online, submits their document online. Till the last date for the RFQ, the documents are secured. Once the date has been reached, the solution allows you to generate the comparative statement of quote, right? All the documents, secured documents, the system then collate all those documents, generates a comparative statement of quote, and gives you a kind of an provision wherein you can select what prices should go to IFS. You can select those prices, and the prices once selected are pushed to IFS. So the document control for all these RFQs has been done in a very secured manner for these customers.
Another question is, can you share other information related to the PO, to the supplier, for example, like project planning?
Yeah, I think Nitin, will you be able to add to this?
Yeah, I can answer this. Yes, you can see what we showed is some selective information that we are allowing the supplier to see. But we just showed some examples. You can add other information. So you can probably show, if you have a project plan, then you can share the project plan with him. Or in case you have a supplier schedule with the supplier, right? Yeah, before it gets converted into a purchase order, you can share the supplier schedule with the supplier and interact with him, right? So we just showed some examples, but again, as we said, that it depends on the organization as to what are the selected pieces of information they want to share, and they can also show it, start sharing with them, not all of them in one go, but piece by piece. So probably they can just start by sharing purchase order information, then later on supplier schedule and grievance management. All of these processes can be added one by one.
Perfect. I'm looking to see if we have any other questions coming in. In that time, I think there's one more slide, Ritesh, that has all my information in case anyone has any further questions. Could you bring that last slide up that has my email and phone number on it?
Sure.
Perfect. If you do have any more questions that come up, my email is what emailed you in regards to this webinar, but as well as you can see it on the screen, as well as that's my cell phone number. If you have any questions or you would like more information, please feel free to reach out. I'll also be sending a recording of this webinar as well. So if there's someone else that you think you should pass it along to, you'll have the opportunity to have that link passed along as well. It doesn't look like we have any more questions. So thank you, gentlemen, for your time and the great presentation. And again, I'll be reaching out shortly with a recording of this webinar so that you can review it or pass it on to someone else that might be interested in it as well. Hope everyone has a wonderful day, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you all for joining.